Great technological advances always change humanity. Harnessing the power of fire, the wheel, electricity, plumbing, the automobile. Then, in 1991, came the Internet. Its supporters say it is the greatest method of communication ever, connecting more than 2.5 billion people to each other. That is more than any other invention, according to the International Telecommunications Union. As the Internet has evolved, its supporters promised a perfect market. No one would be discriminated against, and prices would always be fair on the Internet. But that dream is not coming true. Indeed, the Internet may well be the death of fair prices for almost everyone. We were sold the idea that computers would make everything fair for everyone all the time. Machines would not know who was who, and therefore would not discriminate. But, according to information technology law professor Frank Piscali, the opposite may be true.
Many of the biases that the computerized models were supposed to get rid of, and many of the problems, actually come back even stronger within the models.
The mathematical models are shadowing you. They measure every aspect of your buying patterns and your life. No consumer really knows what personal information companies are using to target them, nor do they know how the companies are doing it. Legal tech counsel Akiva Miller says all shopping is being monitored and measured electronically.
You're paying with an electronic payment card, and that information is stored, collected, and most often passed on to some other party.
So the information about you that you thought you were handing out just once floats around forever. It is sold to many different companies without your knowledge. Those companies hide the information from you by claiming the collection methods are trade secrets. The sellers contend that using all that information and not telling you about how they are using it is legal. They say they are not discriminating against you, but there is no way for anyone to know if that's true. So now maybe you're thinking, everyone practically lives on the internet already, so how bad could this be? This is just the future, right? What could happen? The reason this is bad is it might cost you a lot more money over your lifetime than you could ever imagine. What do people in the internet commerce call it when they're figuring out how to charge you as much as possible? They have a lovely term: dynamic pricing. Google defines dynamic pricing as the practice of pricing items at a level determined by a particular customer's perceived ability to pay. Let me repeat that. Pricing items by your perceived ability to pay, not by what's fair, but by how much you might be able to pay or be willing to pay or be enticed to pay.
So let's say that I'm selling a book on it, or Amazon's selling a book for $9, and it might have an algorithm that says, if the buyer lives in, say, a very poor neighborhood without any bookstores, raise the price by 25%, because they are less likely to go to a bookstore to look for a cheaper version of the book.
The enticement is where your search history comes into play. A cardinal rule of the internet is that if a seller determines you might be willing and able to pay more for an item, you will be charged more. How did they figure that out? By buying personal information about you that was collected by companies called data aggregators. Cornell University computer science professor Ken Berman says data aggregators are not well-known companies.
That they pay fees to companies like Google and Facebook and Visa and so on. And their role is to take all this information that flows into them and aggregate it, to continuously hook it together under your name so that companies that want to offer you products know a great deal about your activities.
That's why online sellers think data mining information about consumers is the greatest achievement since the internet itself. It means they can maximize profits, sell more products for more money, and if they have to, even less money on occasion just to get someone to buy. Data aggregators design computerized programs called algorithms to target you and people like you. Starting with your name, computer address, and phone, the algorithms target you by focusing on your behavior. For example, if you're Googling a certain type of shoe, advertisements about that shoe suddenly pop up on your favorite websites. So do pictures of similar shoes. The algorithms know if the shoes match your style, you may buy them. How do these companies get all that information? In so many ways. Facebook, Google, any shopping site, it's all there. Every click of your finger is saved, and you will never know how it all adds up to paint a picture about you. The algorithms match that information with other data you've intentionally or inadvertently put on your computer or your phone. your locations, your favorite stores, your marital status, your favorite hobbies, your favorite movie characters, how many hours you waste playing bird games on your cell phone. Every app collects and transmits information about you. Ken Berman says the interpretation of your data may not be as innocent as you might think.
The problem that we have is that this flow of information about every single thing that I do, you do, every person you know, how you spent your time, what you ordered the last time you were at a bar, all of this information is flowing into databases which are building up a more and more clear picture of us and have higher and higher value, but we don't have control over those databases.
In theory, your data is used to personalize your shopping experience. That doesn't sound bad, right? But the interpretation of this information when it is applied to dynamic pricing may not be as innocent as you think. In fact, your personal information will be used against you. Professor Frank Pasquale explains.
Right. And this is a real problem, right, with these algorithms, is that you can be someone who tries to be conscientious and tries to look for a bargain, but the very fact that you're looking for a bargain may be fed into these algorithms as evidence that that's someone who really wants it. And because they really want it, they'll pay a higher price for it.
So essentially, the less wealthy you are, the more likely you are to get screwed by dynamic pricing. In the old days, the term for that was redlining. That was when a neighborhood was deemed poor and banks and merchants raised prices because supposedly the customers were riskier. So how do you avoid being redlined on the internet? You can use different browsers and clear your cookies. You can turn off apps on your phone. The experts we talked to say those measures might make it more difficult for sites to capture data about you. While those measures may not hide you completely, they can help conceal your search history on some sites. But do not use Tor. That's the Onion Router. You know, the downloadable program Edward Snowden used to hide National Security Agency secrets. It's not so anonymous anymore. It may really be hopeless to try to hide yourself on the internet. The information is just piling up about you every second of every day. What is changing is how companies are tailoring their treatment of customers, based on an accumulation of facts about how those people behave. Experts say what we really need is a change in privacy law. The algorithms companies use to target consumers should be transparent. We should know about them and how they work. Maintaining privacy is important, but companies should not be allowed to hide behind trade secrets to use information unfairly about a consumer and deny them fair prices. We should have the right to know who is collecting information about us, what they're doing with it, and whether, most importantly, we are being charged more as a result of our profiles. Being an individual with an unusual trait, habit, or desire is hardly a good enough reason to be forced to pay more, especially without your consent. Unless customers are guaranteed that they will get fair prices in some way, the promise of the internet as a great equalizer will prove to be hollow.